The Line in the Stars. Commander Ilara Voros stared at the tactical display with hollow eyes. The holographic projection bathed her blue-scaled face in crimson light, reflecting the reality outside their failing shields. The Xelnar horde had them surrounded. Outpost Horizon, the last defensive position in the Vega Quadrant, would fall within hours. Status report, she demanded, her four-fingered hand clenching around the command rail. Lieutenant Krell approached, his exoskeleton clicking against the deck plates. Shields at 23%. We've lost contact with the Western Defense Grid. Medical reports 78% capacity with critical injuries mounting. Ilara nodded slowly. She had served the Galactic Protectorate Alliance for 37 cycles, and never had she faced such absolute defeat. The Xelnar had emerged from deep space 18 months ago, insectoid, hive-minded, and seemingly driven by a singular purpose: consumption of all other intelligent life. The evacuation? She asked, already knowing the answer. Insufficient transport capacity, Krell replied. At best, we can evacuate 30% of our remaining personnel. Outside the viewport, dark shapes moved against the stars. The chidness hulls of Selmar harvester ships, each one carrying thousands of warrior drones. Ilara had watched them tear through entire defense fleets, their acid-based weaponry dissolving hull plating like tissue paper. The comm officer swiveled in her chair. Commander, we're receiving a transmission on an encrypted channel. It's not using any Alliance protocols. Ilara frowned. Source: unknown, ma'am. The encryption is unlike anything in our database. Hope was dangerous in moments like these, but Ilara allowed herself a sliver of it. Put it through. A voice emerged from the speakers, deep, confident, human. Outpost Horizon. This is Captain Darius Reed of Earth's Hyperion Unit. We've received your distress beacon. Stand by for immediate intervention. The command center fell silent. Humans were a recent arrival on the galactic stage. Barely a century since their first FTL jump, their technology was considered primitive by Alliance standards, though rumors persisted about their unconventional warfare capabilities. This is Commander Voros, Ilara replied cautiously. Earth has no jurisdiction in this quadrant. The Xelnar fleet outnumbers us 12-1. Evacuation assistance is... Not offering evacuation, Commander, the human interrupted. We're offering extermination. Hyperion unit deploying. Recommend you strengthen your orbital shields for the next 3 minutes. Read out. Before Ilara could respond, Krell called out, Commander, multiple objects entering high atmosphere at extreme velocity. The tactical display shifted to show 8 burning trails cutting through the upper atmosphere. Not ships, too small, too fast. Are those projectiles? Someone asked. Ilara's third eye widened in realization. No, they're drop pods. The Alliance had experimented with orbital infantry deployment decades ago before abandoning it as too dangerous. The atmospheric entry alone killed 70% of test subjects. The impact survival rate was negligible. Yet these fiery streaks slammed into the planet's surface with thunderous impacts that registered on their seismic sensors. 7 landed in a precise pattern around the largest Selnar ground force. The 8th crashed directly into the center of the enemy formation. Get me visual, Ilara ordered. The view screen flickered to long-range footage of the impact site. Through swirling dust and debris, dark figures emerged. 7 from the perimeter, 1 from the center. They wore armor unlike anything in Alliance records. Matte black with glowing blue energy lines tracing anatomical patterns across their forms. Each suit seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Magnify, Ilara commanded. The image zoomed in on one of the figures. Nearly 7 feet tall, the armor was not the bulky exoskeletons used by Alliance forces, but something more integrated, more fluid. It moved like a second skin as the human inside drew a weapon that seemed impossibly compact. What kind of armor is that? Krell asked, fascinated despite the dire situation. Unknown, Ilara replied. but I doubt our research division would approve of how they acquired it. The humans moved with disturbing precision, forming a tactical formation that exposed no weaknesses. The Xelnar drones, usually so coordinated in their attacks, seemed confused by these new arrivals. Then the killing began. The human weapons discharged not with the familiar plasma bursts of Alliance technology, but with focused beams of energy that sliced through Xelnar carapaces like they were paper. Where Alliance heavy weapons took sustained fire to penetrate Xelnar armor, these weapons cut through multiple enemies with single shots. "Those aren't standard issue," Krell whispered. "Alliance ban on directed energy weapons has been in place for 3 centuries. Ilara didn't respond. She was transfixed by the methodical efficiency displayed on the screen. The humans didn't move like individual soldiers. They flowed like a single organism, covering each other's blind spots, creating kill zones where Xelnar drones were funneled into precise firing lines. One human warrior moved ahead of the others, diving into a mass of Xelnar warriors. Alliance soldiers would have been overwhelmed in seconds, but this fighter moved with impossible speed. Blades extended from his forearm guards, slicing through limbs and thoraxes with surgical precision. "Tactical analysis," Ilara ordered, her voice barely audible over her own shock. The tactical officer worked his console. They're targeting the neural nodes, Commander. They know exactly where to hit the Xelnar communication network. That was impossible. The Alliance had only discovered that Xelnar's distributed neural network after months of dissecting their corpses. These humans had identified it in minutes. "Commander," the communications officer called out, "Captain Reed is requesting permission to deploy Phase 2. Ilara hesitated only briefly. "Whatever they're doing, it's working. Grant permission." The human acknowledgement was brief. Commencing vertical solution. On the tactical display, small objects detached from the human's armor, flying upward into the sky. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, precision strikes began raining down from orbit, pinpoint impacts that targeted the largest Xelnar command clusters. "They brought orbital support?" Krell asked in disbelief. "No," Ilara realized. "Those are targeting beacons. The strikes are coming from..." She paused, checking the sensor readings. "They're coming from a single ship in high orbit. One ship. Alliance battle doctrine required at least 3 cruisers for precision orbital bombardment. The humans were doing it with what appeared to be a frigate-class vessel. Within 20 minutes, the tide had turned. The main Xelnar force was in disarray, their hive mind connections severed by the tactical strikes. The few remaining command nodes were being methodically eliminated by the ground team. "Commander," Krell said, his voice filled with cautious hope, "that Xelnar are retreating." Ilara watched as the enemy forces pulled back from the outpost's perimeter, abandoning positions they had fought relentlessly to secure. It wasn't a strategic retreat, it was panic, something the Alliance had never witnessed from the hive-minded Xelnar. "Send a security detail to escort Captain Reed to the command center," she ordered. "I want to meet these humans face to face." As the battle subsided, Ilara began to wonder what price this miraculous salvation might carry. The humans had just demonstrated technology and tactics that violated at least 6 Alliance treaties. Their arrival was too convenient, their knowledge of the enemy too precise. When Captain Reed stepped into her command center 30 minutes later, Ilara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the climate controls. He was tall even for a human, with dark skin and eyes that seemed to evaluate everything in the room as either a threat or an asset. His armor had partially retracted, revealing a face marked by scars and an expression that showed neither triumph nor relief. "Commander Voros," he said with a respectful nod. "Hyperion unit at your service." "Captain Reed," Ilara replied. "I believe you have quite a bit of explaining to do." Reed's expression didn't change. "We received your distress call," we responded. "The Xelnar presence in this sector has been reduced by approximately 80%. Using weapons and tactics that violate Alliance conventions," Ilara pointed out. A small, cold smile crossed Reed's face. "We're not members of your alliance, Commander. And from where I'm standing, your conventions were getting you killed." Ilara couldn't argue with that logic, but something still didn't add up. "How did you know about the Selnar neural nodes? Our scientists only discovered them after months of research." Reed's gaze held hers. "Let's just say Earth has been paying attention to the Selnar longer than you might think." The implication hung in the air between them. Before Ilara could press further, alarms began blaring throughout the command center. Massive energy surged from the Selnar fleet. The tactical officer shouted, "They're preparing to fire their main cannons." Ilara turned to Reed, expecting concern. Instead, she found him checking a display on his forearm. "Right on schedule," he said quietly. "Salvation and Shadow." The Selnar fleet hung in low orbit, their biomechanical ships reconfiguring for what appeared to be a final devastating assault. Outpost Horizon's shields, already failing, would never withstand such a barrage. "Evacuate all personnel to the subsurface bunkers," Ilara ordered, keeping her voice steady despite the dread pooling in her stomach. Captain Reed tapped his forearm display. "That won't be necessary, Commander." Ilara turned to face him. "Captain, whatever triumph you achieved on the ground, those are capital ships preparing to fire. Your single vessel can't." "Our single vessel isn't alone anymore," Reed interrupted, nodding toward the viewport. The darkness of space rippled, and suddenly 7 more ships appeared, materializing as if from nowhere. They were sleek, predatory, with none of the utilitarian design sensibilities of Alliance vessels. Their hulls shimmered with the same energy patterns as the Hyperion soldiers' armor. "Stealth technology," Krell whispered. "Actual functional stealth in space." Another supposed impossibility. Alliance scientists had long concluded that true stealth was unachievable in space. Energy signatures, heat dispersion, and gravitational effects all made detection inevitable. Yet the humans had somehow overcome these limitations. The Earth vessels moved with startling acceleration, positioning themselves in a formation that Ilara recognized from tactical simulations, a perfect firing solution. "Hyperion fleet engaging," Reed said calmly. "Recommend you adjust your viewports to compensate for high-intensity light." The command center screens automatically dimmed as the human vessels opened fire. Instead of the expected energy beams or projectiles, rings of blue light expanded from their bow sections, washing over the Selnar ships. Where the light touched, the Chidnus hulls began to dissolve. "What am I seeing?" Ilara demanded. "Targeted molecular destabilization," Reed replied. "It disrupts the specific molecular bonds in Selnar biomaterial. Quite effective, as you can see." The Selnar ships were literally coming apart, segments of their hulls flaking away into space. Their return fire, normally devastating, scattered harmlessly against the human vessel's shields. "How long have you had this capability?" Ilara asked, unable to keep the accusation from her voice. Reed's expression remained neutral. "Long enough to know it works." Within minutes, the Selnar fleet was reduced to floating debris. No survivors, no escape pods, no victory transmissions, just silent, efficient annihilation. The command center was quiet, the victory too sudden, too complete for celebration. Ilara felt her inner eyelid flicker, a sign of stress among her species. "I think it's time we had that conversation, Captain," she said. "Not here. My private office." Reed nodded once, following her through the corridors of the outpost. Alliance personnel stepped aside, watching the human with mixtures of awe and apprehension. Rumors had already begun spreading about the battle outside. Once inside her office, Ilara activated the privacy field and turned to face Reed. "Earth is supposed to be a developing civilization. Limited FTL capability, primitive weapons technology, minimal extraterrestrial experience. Yet you appear with advanced stealth systems, molecular weapons, and perfect knowledge of an enemy that has confounded our best military minds." Reed regarded her calmly. "Classifications can be misleading, Commander. So Earth has been deceiving the Alliance. Earth has been protecting itself, Reed corrected. We encountered the Excelner 23 years ago. They destroyed one of our deep space research vessels. Only one crew member survived to bring back warning. Ilara's third eye widened. 23 years. That's before the Alliance even knew they existed. Reed nodded. We tracked them, studied them, prepared for them. When they began their expansion toward Alliance space, we knew it was only a matter of time before they reached Earth. So this intervention is self-preservation, Reed finished. The Alliance serves as a buffer between Earth and the Excelnar advance. If you fall, we're next. Ilara processed this information, her tactical mind reassessing everything she thought she knew about humans. And the technology. No emerging civilization develops these capabilities so quickly. Reed's expression darkened. We had help. The sole survivor of that research vessel didn't come back alone. She brought something with her, knowledge from a civilization that had encountered the Excelnar before. Another spacefaring species, not known to the Alliance. Not anymore, Reed said quietly. They were wiped out by the Excelnar 10,000 years ago. But they left contingencies, data catches, hidden technology. Our survivor found one. Ilara sank into her chair, the implications staggering. So Earth has been developing these weapons in secret. Does your general population know? A humorless smile crossed Reed's face. Commander, there's something you should understand about humans. We compartmentalize. The Hyperion unit doesn't exist in any official capacity. Our ships don't appear on any registry. Our technology isn't taught in universities. We are humanity's shadow response, created for one purpose: to fight the Excelnar. To ensure human survival, Reed corrected, by any means necessary. The office fell silent. Ilara had served in enough wars to recognize the dangerous edge in Reed's voice, the absolute conviction that justified any action. What happens now? She finally asked. Reed returned to his professional demeanor. Now we continue pushing the Excelnar back. This quadrant is secure for the moment. We'll move on to the next hot zone. And the Alliance. Our leadership will have questions about what happened here today. Tell them what you need to, Reed said with a shrug. That experimental Alliance technology saved the day. That the Excelnar had an unexpected vulnerability. That fortune favored you. The official story is your concern. And if I tell them the truth, that Earth has been hiding advanced weapons and preparing for war without Alliance knowledge. Reed's eyes locked with hers. Then your leadership might start asking questions about why humans are so effective against an enemy that has been decimating Alliance forces. They might wonder what else we know, what else we found. Those questions lead to places your Alliance isn't ready to go. Before Ilara could respond, Reed's forearm display chimed. He checked it briefly. My team has eliminated the remaining Excelnar ground forces, he reported. We'll be departing within the hour. Support vessels are en route to assist with your reconstruction. That's it? Ilara asked, standing. You appear from nowhere, destroy an enemy we've been fighting for 18 months, and then just leave. That's our job, Commander. We fight. We win. We move on. And the next time, will you wait until Alliance outposts are on the brink of destruction again? Reed considered her question. That depends on whether the Alliance continues to underestimate the Excelnar threat. Our intelligence suggests they're just the first wave. There's something larger coming, something that's driving them forward. A cold dread settled in Ilara's chest. You're saying that Excelnar are running from something worse. I'm saying there's a reason they're expanding so aggressively. And when we find out what that reason is, the Alliance will need to decide whether its principles are worth dying for. He moved toward the door, but paused before leaving. Your people fought bravely, Commander. They deserve better than to be sacrificed for political convenience. Remember that when you make your report. After Reed departed, Ilara stood at her viewport, watching as the human vessels disappeared, not with the familiar flash of FTL drives, but simply fading from view, returning to whatever hidden place they came from. The relief of salvation was tempered by the shadow of what she'd learned. Earth wasn't the developing civilization the Alliance had patronizingly welcomed to the galactic community. It was something else entirely. A species that had looked into the darkness between stars and chosen to become what was necessary to survive it. As she prepared her report for Alliance Command, Ilara chose her words carefully. The truth would cause panic, accusations, perhaps even conflict with Earth, but lies would leave the Alliance unprepared for what was coming. In the end, she wrote simply, "Outpost Horizon saved by unexpected intervention. Selnar forces defeated but not destroyed. Request immediate conference to discuss new intelligence on enemy capabilities and tactics." She paused, then added, "Recommend reassessment of Earth's classification in Alliance records. They are not who we thought they were." Ilara sent the transmission, knowing it would take days to reach Alliance Command. By then, Earth's Hyperion unit would be long gone, moving invisibly through the stars, fighting a war most of the galaxy didn't even know existed. But she would remember the look in Captain Reed's eyes, the cold calculation, the absolute resolve. Humans had not evolved as part of the greater galactic community. They had developed in isolation, on a single world with limited resources, surrounded by predators. Perhaps that was why they understood the Selnar better than the Alliance ever could. Perhaps that was why they were winning.